Welcome to the CV Clinic. I'm very happy to see that so many of you are here today with us. I hope that you find this presentation very relevant for you and that you can get some very good tips about how to write a relevant CV, and also that we can help you to get your first job in IT. We can go to the next slide. So today's agenda, we're going to have a brief introduction of ourselves and also a short introduction to Avanade, our company. And then we're going to jump into the subject matter. So we're going to tell you how to write a structured and relevant CV. And then Claudia will tell you why it is important to have an updated LinkedIn profile, what you should write there. And then we're going to give you some interview tips and tricks so that you can make a very good first impression in the interview. And in the end, we're going to tell you about the group sessions that we're going to arrange next week. And if you have any questions, then you can just ask in the end of the presentation, or if you want to interrupt us, feel free. If you have any questions during the presentation, please go on mute or type them in the chat. We will be more than pleased to answer to your questions. But we can go to the next slide and jump to the subject matter. So my name is Laura. I'm an IT recruiter here at Avanade. I have been working here for 1.5 years, and I have a background in HR and marketing. I graduated from Turku School of Economics, and well, the reason why I applied to Avanade, it was because of the emphasis that the company puts on driving diversity and inclusion as a value that the company has. And I'm really glad that I have gotten the opportunity to work with these subjects in the company today. And when I'm not working, you can find me dancing some salsa and bachata or at the gym. And I'm also a very big fan of stand-up comedy.
Thank you, Laura. And hi all, my name is Claudia. I joined Avanade as an IT recruiter as well last May, so I am still quite new. Very, very excited to be a part of Avanade. I come from an experience within recruitment as well since 2019, but in different industries. So this is my first time in tech as well. I have a degree from Copenhagen Business Academy. And besides that, I have a 3-year-old daughter and a dog. So the little spare time I have left, I like to use playing paddle tennis with my family. Yeah, you can go to the next slide. Thank you, Sana. So who is Avanade? Avanade is a joint venture between Microsoft and Accenture. We combine technology, business, and industry expertise. Our vision is to combine the power of people and Microsoft and make a genuine human impact for our clients, their clients, and our employees. Next slide, please.
Yes, and I can take it from here, Claudia. So we are also a global company. We are based in 26 different countries, and we are around 60,000 people worldwide. And we have around 20,000 certified Microsoft professionals. So that's our expertise. And here in Finland, we are around 100 employees. We work very close with the other Nordic countries, and our main office is based in Helsinki. But we have also another co-working space here in Turku. And since we work very closely with Accenture, we can also visit the Tampere and Jyväskylä office. But yeah, that's all about Avanade for now. We can jump to the next slide and go to the CV clinic. So first of all, what I wanted to say is that the things that we recommend you here in this clinic are just our recommendations based on our experience and expertise. There are many ways to write a very good CV. So don't take these recommendations as the only truth. And you will receive all this material, all the presentation after this webinar, so that you can go through it again if you want to. So why it is important to write a good CV? Well, first impressions are very important. So when the recruiter receives your CV, that person is going to have a very quick overview just to check if you have some relevant experience and if you are suitable for the job. And what is the goal of the CV? Well, this is a question that if you have the answer, please come on mute or type it in the chat. What do you think is the goal of the CV? And I can't see the comments, so maybe Sanna, if you if you see any comment, please just share with us if someone has typed something.
I can check the chat box, and
thank you.
Nothing yet, but yeah.
Okay.
I would say if I can come with the answer that it is to get an interview, get to the next stage, amongst other reasons.
Yes, exactly. So the goal of the CV.
You have a comment, actually.
I have a comment. Okay.
Oh, to make a good impression and get to know about a person, also correct.
Yes, that's exactly, yes. You have to make a good impression, tell a bit about yourself so that the recruiter can make an assessment and invite you to the interview if the recruiter finds you suitable for the job. But let's go through the different sections of the CV, and we can go to the next slide. So, contact details. If the goal is for you to get invited to the first interview, then you have to make sure that your contact details are correct and that they are easy to find. Today, something funny happened. Actually, another recruiter called me like 2 hours ago. I'm not actively applying to any jobs, but it seems that someone has typed my phone number mistakenly in their CV. So these things happens. Probably this candidate was relevant for the job. That's why the candidate received a call. But since the phone number was incorrect, it's going to be hard for the recruiter to actually reach to that candidate. So please put attention to put your contact details correctly. Also, it is common to put the title, what type of document it is. Is it a CV, resume? Is it a motivation letter? That's something that you could add as a title. And the date, it should be the day you send the application so that the recruiter can see that you are actually like focusing on that job and putting attention to detail. And of course, a professional picture, that is also something that it's going to affect the first impression that you give. And the email address, that should also be professional. So if you created an email address when you were in high school with your friends and you thought that it was fun, okay, it was probably fun, but on a professional matter, maybe you should think about creating a professional email address. And then we can go to the next slide. Experience. Well, it is typical to write your most recent experience first. Yes, I think we have a question.
Yeah, hello.
Hello.
Yeah, I would like to know, like, how does a professional email look like?
Email address? Well, something that it can be have your name and a number, or for example, your name and your surname. So nothing that it's like related to, I don't know, like a series, or that something that tells like, yes, I like to party, or like Laura.wild or something like that.
Yeah,
that's
don't
not very
make an email
professional.
called unicorn. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And yeah, so experience. So the most recent experience should be listed first. And what do we want to know as recruiters about your past experience? well, you can tell about your role, about the team you were working with, what was your role in the team, in which sector you have experience from. For example, if you are working with different clients that come from different sectors, that you could mention those sectors. And also, if you are working in a firm that is not very well known, you could also write a sentence about the firm, the company you're working in, and the sector that the company is in. Also, the tasks that you've done in that role, and not only the tasks, but also the impact that you had in that role. And for an IT role, if you are applying for an IT position, it is very important to mention what are the tools that you used and also the technology. That is very, very important. Career gaps. Should you tell about your career gaps? Well, if you have like a good reason to have a career gap, for example, you wanted to go traveling, or you had to take care from a relative, or you wanted to develop yourself, or you just wanted to take a longer maternity leave or something like that, those are good things that you can mention. Though those are very good reasons to take a career gap. In case that you have a personal reason that you don't want to share, you don't need to tell about your career gap. But in that case, you have to be prepared that if you get into the interview, the recruiter is probably going to ask you about the career gap. So prepare an answer for that. Also, what is very important when telling about your experience is that you make it easy for the recruiter to find the relevant information. For that, you can use different fonts, bold some part of the text, use some spaces between the lines, or some bullet points. That is something that is going to make it very easy to read your CV and also to find the relevant information. And if we don't have any questions, we can move to the next slide.
There is a question in the
Okay.
chat. We have one. If you're changing career to IT, how much should you list your previous work experience? Would it be better to have a short CV and then the full experience listed on LinkedIn?
Yes, of course. For example, a CV, the length should be around 1 page or 2 pages. So the relevant experience that you can fit in 1 page or 2 pages is something that you could add. It is very common that the LinkedIn profile is longer, because there you can list almost everything. Of course, you can also think about what is relevant to write on your LinkedIn profile. When you are changing from another industry to an IT industry, the past experience that you have, even if it's not on an IT role, it's also something that might be relevant, because you have gained some important skills doing that work that you have done. And usually IT is not like isolated from the other industries. Usually you use technology to help people from other industries. So if you have experience from another sector, for example, healthcare or the energy sector, well, for example, here at Avanade, we have a lot of projects on the healthcare industry, on the energy industry. So if we see that you have a background from those sectors, it is relevant, because you have an understanding of that industry in which you were going to implement technology. I hope that I answer your question.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Someone wrote, thank you so much for the answer. So
Okay, great. And I think we can move to the next slide then. Education. So you should list your highest education first. Also, if you have still some ongoing studies, you should mention about them. And if you know, or if you have an idea, when are you going to graduate, then you can put there, like, when are you planning to graduate? Also mentioning about your minor, or your field of specialization. That's also something that you should list there, so that we get a better overview about what's your area of expertise. And then the language. You should list the languages that you can speak and write on a basic, intermediate, or professional level. And don't forget to also write your mother tongue. And you shouldn't just list the languages, but also make like some sort of like assessment, how proficient you are on that language. If you can like use this kind of like objective scales like A1, A2, B1, B2, C1, C2, that is very recommended, but you can also use these other ways of assessing your level of proficiency. And next slide, please. And then the skills. What personally I like as an IT recruiter is when candidates add a skills section on their CV. And there I can find which are some relevant skills for the role. I highly recommend to add this kind of section on your CV. And also, if you can tell where you have applied or learned that skill, that's also very, very recommended. And also to connect the skill with the experience that can reflect what's your level of expertise on that skill. Telling about the level of proficiency of certain skill might be a bit tricky, because usually we make some sort of like subjective assessments. So for example, if you have 2 weeks of experience using Data Factory and 6 months of experience using Azure Data Lake, then when you assess your level of experience, you might think, okay, I have a basic knowledge about Data Factory, but I'm an expert on Data Lake. But if we compare that 6 months of Data Lake experience with someone that has 5 years of experience on that same skill, this other person with 5 years of experience might also assess the level of proficiency as professional. So now we have 2 professionals on Data Lake, one with 6 months of experience and one with 5 years of experience. So for that reason, if you can connect your skill with your experience, your job experience or job experience, where have you implemented that skill? It's more informative to the recruiter. Yes, I think we can move to the, yeah.
There is a question.
Mm-hmm.
Have you seen it, or
I can't read it completed. Wait.
I see you've listed technical skills and soft skills here. How interested are recruiters in soft skills when looking at a CV? Aren't technical skills most relevant for recruitment?
Well, for an IT role, I think that first we would check if you have the technical skills that we need, and then check also that you have the soft skills. Both are very important, because you're also going to work in different teams, work with clients. You need to be able to communicate, to come to along with different type of people, internal or external clients. For that reason, I think that both are highly important, and I recommend you to list both type of skills.
I agree. And we have both very technical roles, and then we have client facing. Oh,
Sorry,
someone should
someone
go
is
on
on
mute.
mute. Yeah, thanks.
So yeah, and when a technical role is more client facing, it is nice to also know a bit about the soft skills as well. So I agree.
Yes. Thank you. Very good questions. I'm glad that you are asking these questions. But yeah, we can move to the next slide. Okay, projects. In the same way as job experience, you should list your most recent project first. And if you don't have like a very long job history, you might have not like project experience that is job related. But as equally as job related project experience, also non-job related project experience is highly valuable. So for example, if you wrote a master or bachelor's thesis and made a project there, that's something that you could mention. If you had some volunteering experience, that's also very valuable. If you participated in a hackathon or participated in a casework at your school, that's also something that you could mention on your CV. And if you have a hobby, for example, you like to make some websites, or you have a GitHub or something like that, that's also something that is very recommended to mention on your CV. And regarding what you should tell about the project, well, as the same way as when you tell about your job experience, you can tell about the role that you had, what the team that you were working in, what did you do, what were the results that you had, and also the tools and the technology that you used. And for example, if you have participated in a hackathon, but you didn't win, well, it doesn't matter. Even participating in a hackathon has probably helped you to develop some sort of skills that might be relevant for the job that you are applying for. And for that reason, I would highly recommend to also mention about those experiences, even if you didn't get the first place in a hackathon. And at some point, when you have a longer job history, you might have gathered a lot of project experience. So this list is going to be longer and longer. In that case, it would be recommended maybe to have a separate attachment with the list of projects that you have been working in. And in the same way as a CV, you should select the projects that are relevant for the role and make a concise list. And as a side note, if you use acronyms in your CV, please explain what do they mean. For example, ROI. If the recruiter has no experience recruiting for marketing related roles, the recruiter might not know what does ROI mean. So explaining that ROI is return of investment, it's recommended. So you don't leave room for guessing. Yes, so next slide, please. Courses. So if you have gone through a course that is relevant for the role, you could list that in your CV. You can mention the name and the content and then the course provider. And if the name of the course is not telling about what was the content in, then you could add one sentence to explain what was the course about. And also mentioning the course provider is important, so that if the recruiter wants to get to know a bit more about what was the course about, then they can do a little research there. And certifications, as we have been mentioning all the time, put certifications that are relevant for the role. These are highly valued. And also mention when is the expiration date, or if the certification doesn't have an expiration date at all. And you can put, for example, the exam and the certification code, and then the name. Yes, next slide, please. So how can you identify relevant experience for a specific job? So please, you can type your answer in the chat. What do you think that you should write on your
Is
CV?
it too small to read, or Sana, can you zoom in on the job description?
Sarna, can you
If
zoom
not,
it a bit? No? Is it possible in Zoom? Should be possible if it's Zoom, right?
Let's try.
otherwise. Is there anyone who would want to come off mute who can read it, or let us know in the chat if you can read the text on the screen or if it's too small.
I think it's a bit hard to read.
Yeah, I think so too.
So maybe we can just go to the next slide.
Yeah, we'll skip
It's
it.
fine. Yeah. Still small, but when you receive the presentation, you can actually see the text. But the main point here is that you should write a CV that reflects the job description. So, for example, if the company is looking someone that has experience in building data pipelines and data platforms, and you have that experience, well, that's something that you should mention on your CV. If the company is looking for someone with experience in Python or SQL, then that's something that you should mention as well if you have that type of experience. And also language experience, that should reflect what's the requirement of the role. So in this example, fluency in English. So that's why you should also mention that you are speaking, for example, on a professional level, English. I think we had a comment there, Claudia. Should in the motivational cover letter. Yes, you can mention that also on your cover letter. It has to be on the CV. And then you can pick what's the most relevant in your opinion and tell about that on the motivational or your cover letter. So on the cover letter, you could tell about the experience that you have, like building data pipelines and data platforms, and also maybe add what are your ambitions regarding that. If you want to develop and become, for example, a data architect, to actually be the one that is planning the solution and, like designing the platform and not just building that, that's something that you could add in the motivational letter. So to put a bit more of like a spicy there. And next slide, please. Yes. And here you can see one of the requirements. Well, not the requirements, but something that can help you stand out are the certifications. So that's why it is important also to mention about the certifications on your CV. And what I would highly recommend is that if you don't meet 100% the criteria of the job, still apply. It's very hard to find someone that meets 100% the criteria. It's usually when we write a job description, is more of like we would like you to have this type of experience, but we really don't expect that there is going to be someone with 100% meeting the criteria. So if you meet at least 60, 70% of the criteria, it's already enough for you to be considered for the job. And also, sometimes it's more important, and what we highly value in the recruitment process is to see the motivation and the potential of the candidate, that the person has to learn these certain skills. And if you think about it, everything can be learned. So that's also very important for you to remember when you are applying for a job. And the next one, please. Okay, so common mistakes when writing a CV. Well, having an unprofessional picture, as you know, that's gonna affect the first impression that you're gonna give. Having the wrong date. Maybe you sent the same CV or application to another company 2 weeks ago, and now you decided to send it again to a new company. Well, that's the thing that we think when we see a wrong date on a CV. And then if the contact information is hidden, well, if the goal of the CV was for you to get invited to the first interview and we can't find the contact information, then we miss the goal. Unprofessional email address. So for example, if you created something like maikku.bilehilo@hotmail.com when we were like 15-year-olds, when you were with your friends, it probably was very fun back then, but it's not a very good email address to use when applying for a job. Also, cliches. Is the photo necessary if I have one on my LinkedIn profile? No, I wouldn't say that the photo is necessary. Nowadays, we are there, how do you say it? Like anonymous CV, like applying for a job anonymously without a picture.
And non-biased.
Yeah.
So no picture, age.
No picture and no name. It's something that is becoming very common. So not having a picture on your CV, it's totally fine nowadays. But if you decide to use a picture, then make sure it's professional. Cliches. So if you write, I'm a social person and I am a hard-working person, well, unless you have something to back up that sentences, that is not something very recommended to tell about, because you are not going to differentiate from others, from other applicants. And also if I have not relevant experience. Sorry, what do you mean? Like not relevant experience at all?
Do you have an education that might be a bit relevant? Then I would focus on that a bit more, and then in the cover letter, write how you can relate from your knowledge you gained at your study into the role that you're applying for, if you don't have any relevant job experience. So try to draw some parallels between the experience you do have, maybe from a school.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and as I previously mentioned, for example, the projects, if you have worked in a project, it can be also a personal project that you did as a hobby. That's also relevant experience. If you had, for example, go to a course that it's like not from your school, that's also a relevant experience that reflects that you are really motivated and willing to develop in that skill or in that field of area. Yes, so those are also relevant experience that you could mention. We have one question, Claudia. Can you please?
When we talk about willingness to learn, do you have any advice on how we can do it without sounding cliche?
Then,
Good question.
as I mentioned, like if you don't have something to back up, that's why it's not good to use cliches. But if you have something to back up your argument, then you can use it. Okay, I'm willing to develop in this area. I have done this and that to, achieve this goal. So just giving an example, that is enough. So maybe I said it wrong. You can use this type of sentences, but you need to back them up. Don't leave them just like, I am social, period. No, I am social, and for that reason, I was selected uh, to represent our colleagues in my company to do this and that. Okay, that's okay. I think we got another comment.
Is last name necessary to put on CV or cover letter?
Well,
I think when you're in the process and you apply for a job through our portal, at least you have to sign off on GDPR. And we use the information that you've given us to present an offer if we get to that stage. So I think the last name is necessary.
yes, at least in at some point.
Yeah, at some
It
point.
will be necessary to
Yeah.
identify you. But yeah, I think the formatting, it's important to make it easy to find the relevant information. And also, if you have some missing experience or you have added some experience that it's not really relevant for the job, well, that's also something that would reflect that your CV is not maybe like tailored for the specific job you are applying for. Also, what I have seen, some applicants have mentioned the client's name. It's okay if you have permission from the client to use them as reference, but usually it's enough if you just mention the sector your clients are from. And also grammar errors and typos. Please put attention to them. And then next slide, please. One more thing I would like to add, put attention to detail. This is an example of a CV that I received actually this week. And this person has used a template, which is totally fine. You will actually receive a link to a portal from where you can download a template and just put your own text in the CV. But as you can see, this applicant forgot to replace the text from the template with their own text. So please put attention to detail. And then next slide, I think, Claudia, you can take it
Yes.
from here.
Thank you, Laura. I will go over how to use LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is basically your always live CV. And I think it's very important to use it. And to back that up, a study in Finland shows that only 30% got their current job applying for an open position. The rest got their job via network. And LinkedIn is your online professional network. So you should have a profile, you should keep it updated, and you should link up with your former colleagues, your current ones, people you used to go to school with, people you met at a work event, and so on. And at LinkedIn, there are also these forums. So if, for example, you are wanting to get into ERP or CRM or a specific technology, you can find forums and you can join those and ask other peers for advice, and you can connect and expand your network in that way as well. And you should be active when you have a LinkedIn profile, because when you like other people's posts, it will go into the algorithms will send it into your network as well, which also means that when you make a post and someone likes it, it will go to their network as well. So if you're in the position where you're looking for a new job, you can make a post and have people like it. And every time they like it, it expands, like rings in the water. Next slide, please. So have an updated LinkedIn. I will just quickly add that we had a bit of technical difficulties before starting this call. So Laura and I were supposed to share the screen and go to my profile just to quickly show an example of how a profile should or could look. But I will not do that. So I will just quickly mention what you should have updated. There is a frame on LinkedIn. Laura and I, because we are in recruitment, we use one where it says hiring, but there's also one that says open to work. And when you put this frame on your picture, you can choose which type of titles you're looking for, which type of job, and where. And it's important to fill out that information as well. And I will tell you why exactly it is important on the next slide, but I will just go over this for now. As Laura mentioned, have a professional profile picture, which means just it should only be from your shoulders and up and no one else in the picture. But if you want to show some personality, funny hat or something, I think that is fine. It tells a bit about you, but no one else in the picture. You can see my different profile pictures from different social platforms. The other one is from my private Facebook, and then the one from LinkedIn. I wouldn't have my daughter on my professional site. And then the sector about. Make a short introduction, put some facts in there about yourself, a bit about your experience and your ambitions, and use three relevant words. And this could be, if, for example, you're a CRM professional. I have worked within Microsoft Dynamics for 3 years now, and stuff like that. It should only be like 4 or 5 lines or so. It doesn't have to be that long. And you can actually use the same text on your CV as well. So easy, work smart. And then the work experience. As Laura mentioned, have your work experience with a short description under it on each of your work experience. And your education should also be updated, your skills. And something that LinkedIn can do as well is link your skills to your job experience. So when you're putting in skills on your LinkedIn profile, you can actually mention where did I learn this skill? Am I currently using it? So that when Laura and we come across your profile, I can see, oh, she has used Dynamics is the last 3 places that she worked in and is currently using it now as well. It makes it easier for us to know how recent your experience and how big your experience actually is. Certifications also very important, especially in tech. Have them updated and put all of your certifications in. As we mentioned a bit earlier, your CV should be made relevant for the specific job. Your LinkedIn profile can be broader and have more old experience and also a bit older certifications. Some of them, they expire, then remove them or renew them, but you can have more on your profile at LinkedIn. Also mention your language, your mother tongue, or do you speak any other languages as well? Just mention them there. And one more thing I would like to add is that on your LinkedIn profile, you can actually have your former colleagues write a recommendation so that you always have a recommendation on your profile. And you can also give your former colleagues or managers recommendations as well. You could go to the next slide. Thank you. So keywords. The way Laura and we search for candidates on LinkedIn, we have access to something called Recruiter, who is a LinkedIn page or software where we can search between all the people and users on LinkedIn. And the way we do that is using keywords. This is why that Laura has been great at explaining it. Take the keywords from the job description or the job ad that you want to apply for and use the ones that you also know and the skills that you do have that relates to that job ad and put them in your LinkedIn profile, put them in your CV as well. So when I, for example, looking for a CRM specialist in Helsinki, I will write within Microsoft, I will write Microsoft Dynamics 365, customer engagement, CRM, Helsinki, and maybe a bit more. And then all the profiles that fit that description or have those keywords on their profile will appear on my screen. And then I can reach out to them and encourage them to apply for a position. So the keywords are very, very important. Next slide, please. We have a few interview tips and tricks. And first, prepare for the interview. Let's say now you have an updated CV, you have an updated LinkedIn, so you are getting called for your first interview for a job. And sorry, there is a question.
Sorry, yeah. To use a keyword in
No.
LinkedIn, do I have to put number? No, hashtag, sorry.
No, you don't. It would make more sense if I could show my own profile, but due to the technical difficulties, that wasn't possible. But at the end of our presentation, and you will be able to get the presentation afterwards, there is a slide with links, and one of them is a YouTube video on how to update those skills in your LinkedIn profile. So you can watch that after and put in the keywords. And if you have questions, you're also welcome to contact Laura and me on LinkedIn, and we will be happy to help. But yeah, prepare for the interview, get to know the company and the role. I usually ask my candidates in the beginning of an interview, do you know something about Avanade, and what do you know? Also, so I don't spend time telling something that they may already know, but it also shows that you're motivated about this role, you're really interested, you've done some research, you don't have to know everything, but it's nice to hear that you've watched a YouTube video and are really interested in the company as well. And think about why you want to join the specific company. Again, the motivation is very important, and sometimes it tops the skills. So motivation is just as important as the skills are. Prepare relevant questions. This is a two-way street. Is there something that you really want to know more about and is important to you? Please ask them at the interview. Prepare some questions. If it's important to know something about the social life at that company, write down some questions and ask them at the interview. And check the technology as well. If you know that the company uses, for example, Microsoft technology and you have worked with it before or made a project using that technology, mention it at the interview. That is a very relevant information to say as well. And be aware of how you present yourself. All communication matters. We have put in a small example here of a recruiter sending out a message and getting a response from a candidate. And even that little type of communication, it matters how you present yourself. So be aware of that and do your best. And be consistent on what you say at the interview. Don't hesitate. Be honest. It's okay not to know something. That is completely normal. And don't interrupt unless you're invited to. I like to invite my candidates to interrupt me because when you get the questions along the way, it will also generate a form of natural conversation. So for me, it's fine. But if you're not invited to, don't do so. Listen and answer the questions, of course, and maintain good eye contact. I know that can be different when it's on a team calls. Most of my interviews are on Teams, but look at the screen. Don't be looking all around the room. Focus on the screen. Next slide, please. So we've gathered a few common interview questions. I will not go over all of them, also taking in the time, but I will just highlight a few of them. For example, tell about yourself. Give me a short introduction. Myself, I used to get really nervous when going to interviews, and I really found out that it helped me to even practice how I should present myself. And it's a very common question, but the answers could be different depending on the role that you're interviewing for. So think about what do you want to emphasize in that when being asked that questions. How do you want to present yourself? And then strength and weaknesses, it's a very classic question, but you can always come up with some forms of weaknesses that also could be strengths. One of mine is that I'm stubborn. That could both be a weaknesses and it could also be a strength. So give it some thought prior going into an interview. And also I usually ask if you have a project that you would like to highlight or one you're extra proud of. And maybe think about that before going into an interview. Is there anything you've worked on that you're extra proud of? And be prepared to tell about that. And next slide, please. So, outcomes. We would like you to leave this webinar with some outcomes, of course, and we have a few tips from us. And the first one is be honest and be authentic. If you're nervous at an interview, I usually get nervous as well as a recruiter. It's okay. Just tell me I am here to make you shine. We are here to make you shine at that interview as well. And it is easier to make you feel comfortable if you're just honest and tell me that you're nervous or whatever it could be. And also, very important, this is a two-way street. So you're also interviewing for your next employer. So it's a match both ways. We're not just interviewing you. I am also supposed to sell this company to you and make it look appealing and sound appealing. So it's both way. Remember that. So ask a lot of questions. I
Sorry,
think we have a
what percent of criteria should be met at the minimum to apply for a position? I would say 60, 70. It should be enough.
yeah, but it's hard to put a percentage on because it
Mhm.
also it depends on which of the skills you actually do know. So I think it's hard to answer.
Then we have another question. Often after sending in your CV, is it a good idea to contact a recruiter company before a possible interview? Well, I can tell you from my own experience when people have done that, they have, how do you say, differentiated themselves from the others, and I remember them better. So I would say yes. If yes, what
I
type of
agree.
contact? Phone, email is better. Well, if there
I
is
would say
a
LinkedIn.
yeah. And of course, in some job descriptions, there is the phone number. So if they have written there that you can contact me between this and this time or something like that, then giving a phone call is also a very good idea. What kind of questions or communication would you expect from the applicant at that point? I guess
Mm,
that, for example, it would be very natural for a candidate to want to get more information about the role. It's normal. Okay, what are actually the expectations for the role? What would be the day-to-day work life? Also asking what does the company value from an applicant? That's something that very
and the culture and the team
exactly.
that this role would be functioning in. What are the teammates like? How is the manager? Yeah, there are
Mhm.
many questions.
Yes, and then we have one question more. What is a good answer to the question? Tell about yourself. What should you highlight? Well,
As Laura also mentioned a couple of times now, highlight something relevant and then make sure you can back it up. So when you tell about yourself and uh, give a brief introduction of what you studied in school or your recent job, then highlight something that is relevant towards the job you're currently interviewing for
mhm.
and back it up.
And also I would like to add something that tells about your motivation to apply for that job. What are your ambitions? What do you want to make like an impact to the company and in general in your career?
I agree. Yes.
Good questions.
Yeah. But yeah, basically, first impressions matter. Update your CV. And if you don't meet 100% of the criteria, apply anyway. Update your LinkedIn, use keywords, open to framework, prepare for the interview. I think we're running out of time, so quickly. Next slide, Laura.
When recruiters look at GitHub account, is there anything in particular that is a priority? Personally, I haven't checked the GitHub because it goes very technical for me, but I know I have seen in interviews, for example, for a developer position or for a data analytics position, that they actually go through their GitHub account. So probably something that is related to the particular job would be relevant. Sorry, I can't give a better answer to that question at this point, but I can actually come back to you via email. And yeah, so we would like to invite you to our group sessions. They're going to be next week on Thursday and on Friday. They're going to be 25 minutes long, and there are like group session of 5 persons. We are going to send you this material so that you can write a CV and also update your LinkedIn profile. So when you attend these sessions, you have already a CV or an updated LinkedIn profile. And if you have any questions or you would like to receive some feedback for those, then we can give you that feedback in those sections. Yes, and next one, please.
Next slide. And you will get the presentation after this webinar, so you can sign up later if you want to do that. And we have very few minutes for questions. So if anyone want to come off mute or ask a questions in the chat, we will be happy to answer. And if someone is more comfortable in speaking Finnish, that is okay. Then Laura can take it.
Can we get links for groups?
Yeah, maybe Sanna, you could go back to the previous slide.
Yes, and you get links afterwards too.
Yeah.
Yes, so those are the links, and you can also use the QR code to save your spot already now. Is it recommended that CV is always in English? Well, I think that it's not, it doesn't have to be in English, but for example, in our company, since we are a global company, in the recruitment process, there might be people from other countries. So to make them able to actually be able to read your CV in that occasion, it would be recommended to be in English. But if it's a Finnish company and if their job advertisement is in Finnish, then I wouldn't see a problem that the CV is in English. You mentioned that LinkedIn skills should be linked to relevant experience. How would you go about listing skills acquired from personal projects on GitHub? I am new to LinkedIn. Are you aware, Claudia, if it's possible to link the skill to a project?
No, it's not. It's
not
only possible to link them to a job experience.
Okay, yeah, but still, even if you can't link them to a job experience, you should add them
Still
in
put
the
them.
skills section. That's also going to help, for example, recruiters to find your profile when using keywords to find relevant candidates. And
Exactly.
also, if you tell about your GitHub page, or you have a project section in which you mention about your GitHub, then you can just type it there. What skills did you develop in that project? Just as a sentence. So that's a way.
Agreed.
Just
there is
no problem.
Also a link to Laura's and mine's LinkedIn page. So if you, because the time is running up, so if you have any more questions, there's also our email addresses. You're welcome to reach out, and we would love to help you. And if not, then join the group sessions, and then we will help you there.
Yes, and thank you for joining. I would like to also invite you to apply to our trainee program and check our job opportunities. And if there is nothing that suits your career goals, then you can send an open application to our candidate community, and we'll take it in from there.
Hei.
Thank you.
Tuli vielä yksi kysymys
Thank
suomeksi.
you.
Onko teille mahdollista päästä työharjoitteluun?
Joo, on kyllä, joo. Eli toi trainee program, niin se on tämmöinen harjoittelujakso. Se kestää 5 kuukautta ja sitten sen jälkeen tarjotaan vakituinen työpaikka. Ja se harjoittelu alkaa tämän vuoden elokuussa. So yes, harjoittelu, trainee program.
Kiitos.
Okay. Thank you. How can we apply to the training program? We're going to send you the presentation. So there is the link, Avanade Nordic Trainee Program. You can find the program from there, and then you can send us your updated CV written with this material. Yes, I think Isabella, you want to ask something?
Yeah, like if you're completely new, is it okay to go for the training? Like, do we need any experience before experience or anything?
For the trainee program, we are looking for people that are like they're done with their studies. It doesn't have to be university studies, but something relevant for the program. And you don't need job experience for the trainee program. The trainee program is built in a way that you would get the relevant technical experience and also consulting experience that you will need to work as a consultant after the program.
Okay, and the education level, which level is it? High school is fine?
Well, so it would be recommended that you have some sort of like background in IT. So you can also go through, it doesn't need to be like University of Applied Sciences or university. It can be any type of education that is relevant for the program. The level is not relevant, but the field.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Bye.
Is Finnish mandatory for the trainee program? For this year, yes, it is still mandatory. Some of the studying modules are going to be locally and in Finnish, and also in the position that the person would be working after the trainee program. There is a requirement to know Finnish, at least on a B2 level. It doesn't have to be perfect, but at least some B2 level. Yes.
If there are no more questions.
Can you do trainee program remotely? Mostly yes. So on Fridays, we have that the trainees come to the office, and sometimes we have some like face-to-face trainings. So for that reason, it would be good if you can attend those face-to-face trainings, like going to the office, but the rest of the program can be done remotely.
And we in general at Avanade work quite flexible. So you can work from home, but we have a strong social culture. So of course we want you to join the office as well.
Yes, and of course, as a consultant, in some cases, the clients want you to visit them to their offices. So in that case, it's like openness to travel every once in a while is important to be a consultant. Is it possible for you to get a work trial about 3 to 6 months, or do you only have the trainee program? Well, for now, we only have the trainee program. That's also what you mentioned about the work trial. It's something that we can consider, but we don't have the structure yet for that types of contract. I'm happy to see that we have very good questions here.
Very good questions.
Yeah.
and so many attending.
Yeah, I'm super happy for that. And of course, if you don't have any questions right now, and then you suddenly come up with a question, there are the links to our LinkedIn profile. Please just feel free to connect and ask away your questions. Can I be at the end of my studies or need to be already graduated? Well, the program starts in August, end of August. So by then, it would be good that you have been already graduated. Of course, it's also possible that if you have, like, for example, you just need to do one course and you can do it remotely and you can still attend the program 100%. Okay, we can be flexible. Or if you have to write your diploma or your master thesis or something, that's also okay. So for us, it is important that it's like at least almost ending your studies and that you can come 100% to the program. And also after that, because we're going to offer a permanent position after the program. Okay, you need the internship to graduate. Okay, so that could be possible. So if I know that some schools, they have like this 5 months, 6 months internship program. So if your school is okay that this internship program counts as well, the internship that you have to do to graduate, it should be okay because it's not interfering with the training program. Thank you. I hope we get a lot of applications to our training program.
Me too. And that people learn something
from this clinic. Yes, yes. I'm excited to see how many people attend our group sessions next week and just to see the questions that you might have there, and we will be more than pleased to answer to them. It has been very interesting to speak with you today. When is the deadline to apply for the program? I would sorry.
Hello,
Hi.
I have a question, please. Yes,
Yes.
hi.
Hi.
Actually, on the maternity, it will be in the by this month.
Okay.
So, can I apply for that program?
Sure. Yes, you can apply, but we will start in August.
In August, no problem. And also, I have I am studying master degree, and it is only my thesis are left.
Okay.
So
yeah.
I may study that in August. So it is okay for me to apply.
Yes, I mean, if you can, well, the program is like 7, it's like a job. So for example, you have to be able to invest 7 hours per day, 7.5 hours per day to the program. If you can do your thesis in the afternoons and in the weekends, then it's fine.
Yeah, it is. Even my thesis will be like evening time. So
okay, yeah, then it's
afternoon. And is there any deadline for the program or?
You should apply as soon as possible. We're gonna go through the applications during next week, and we were going to invite the candidates that we want to interview during next week.
Okay, yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, but maybe we now wrap up and say
Isabella has one last question.
Yeah, one last question, please.
Yes.
Like if you don't speak Finnish, that you cannot apply for it, or
unfortunately, we are on a transition time. As Avanade, we are a global company. We can communicate in English, which is like it makes it possible for you to, join the teams and work with your colleagues. The thing is that from the client side, we still have some requirements that the consultants have to speak Finnish. For that reason, our job, job application, not job advertisements, they have a requirement to speak Finnish. And for that reason, that's also a requirement for the training program. I hope that in a near future, this requirement is not available. No, not available, but that we don't have that requirement anymore.
Not necessary.
Not necessary anymore. We are seeing already some change in some of the roles, but unfortunately for the training program, there is still a requirement to speak Finnish.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. And
Thank
thank you for
you.
attending.
Thank you for attending. Have a nice day.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice weekend.